Welcome to the Lean Life Podcast, where holistic nutrition meets deep healing and soul-level wellness. This is a space where we connect mind, body, and spirit, where lean means shedding the layers, returning to who you truly are, and nourishing yourself from the inside out. I'm Lauren Ahola, your host and holistic registered dietitian with over a decade of experience, and I've learned that real healing goes far beyond food. It's emotional, spiritual, and deeply personal. If you're ready to go deeper, reconnect with yourself, and truly lean into all that you are, you're in the right place. Let's do this. Hi, everybody, and welcome back. Today we have a hot topic we're going to talk about, GLP-1 medications. And so today's episode goal is just to help you guys understand them a little bit more. I have a lot of clients on them. Everyone is asking me questions on them, and I'm sure that whether you're on one, considering going on one, or you definitely know somebody on one. So today we're going to go through and to help you understand what GLP-1 medications actually are, who they may help, current research and benefits, risks and side effects, how to protect muscle and metabolism, nutrition strategies for success, and that's mostly what I help people with, whether people can eventually come off them, and how to support your body to make GLP-1s naturally on your own. Just a little opening here, whether you love them, hate them, or considering going on GLP-1s or know someone taking them, GLP-1 medications are one of the biggest topics in the health and weight loss world right now. And there's just so much information. And I will say, to be honest, that anyone who says they are an expert, I think that's a really hard thing to say right now because there is so much new research coming out every single day, and they really haven't been around that long. But I do think that, certain doctors, medical professionals, registered dietitians can be great sources to go to and clarify some of this noise out there. And as a dietitian, my role is to help people to succeed on them. I'm never going to tell my clients, or if somebody came to me asking about going on a GLP-1, whether they should or they shouldn't, I tell them that's not my decision. What I do is I'll go through the pros and cons with you, go through your goals, see what you've tried before in the past. And then I always encourage my clients, based on all the information that they have, to really just sit with it and go within and ask yourself, does this feel like an aligned decision for me? Because that's where it has to come from. It has to come from you. It has to feel good in your body to make that decision. And nobody else can tell you that. But I do think it's good to talk to your providers to get all your questions answered and do your own personal research before you just decide to start them, right? Because what I always tell my clients is they are a tool. They're not going to be this quick fix, but if you do decide to use a GLP-1, using it as a tool can be really helpful. We still need to make sure we're eating well. You can take this as an opportunity to start an exercise routine if you haven't already, getting your labs done, making sure you're staying hydrated, working on your mental health, because you have to ask yourself, do I want to be on these forever? And the goal is to start to get some results, use them as a tool to give you a jump start and some motivation to maybe see the numbers start to change. And then eventually, if you decide to come off of them, if you don't do any of the things behind this and you take the medications, think, oh, I'm losing weight, this is great, then decide to come off of them, you're going to be back at square one. Maybe even harder to lose weight than it was before. So that's my little background spiel, and we'll go into a lot more information today. So what are GLP-1 medications, right? What does that stand for? GLP-1 stands for glucagon-like peptides. So it's a peptide, a hormone that your body naturally makes. Peptides are chains of amino acids, which are proteins. Protein broken down to its simplest form is an amino acid, and they form small chains to make peptides. So other common peptides you might heard of, insulin, collagen, they're also peptides that your body naturally makes. Peptides are a huge world out there right now. I'm not going to say I'm an expert on them. There are some natural ones you can take, like the GLP-1s, but I will say that taking a GLP-1 peptide for a medication, your body's never going to produce that much. So the amount that they give you in these medication is just so much more. Your body can naturally make them on your own, but you're never going to make as much. And then there's some more synthetic peptides that you can go to specialists on and really make your personal choices there. Collagen's one that I take myself, especially being pregnant. I really like collagen. So the GLP-1s, they are released after eating. And they are actually the first weight loss medication to work on both your gut and your mind, which I find to be super interesting and probably one of the reasons they are working so well for a lot of people. So I've been a dietitian for 15 years now. Before I went on my own in 2020. Before that, I had worked for a while in a weight loss clinic for two doctors. One was a bariatric weight loss surgeon, and the other was a weight loss doctor, and she specialized in weight loss medications. So this was back in like 2017 to like 2020, I worked there. And believe it or not, GLP-1s were not a huge thing. We had one called Saxenda, which is like the GLP-1s that was there, but really nobody came in ever asking for it. It was mostly just the doctor's decision if they went on it or not. And I will say that I did see some success with people on that. I've been working with people a while before they became a big thing with multiple weight loss medications, but never have I seen the results that people are getting now. And I think that really has to do with the effect it has not only on your mind, but your gut. And yeah, because I will say that your gut plays a huge role in regulating your fullness, your satiety, your hunger levels, and there's such that gut-mind connection. So it is really interesting. And how do the GLP-1s work? They regulate your blood sugar. They can slow stomach emptying. They improve insulin response, signals fullness to the brain, and reduces appetite. So a lot of those are really desirable because they don't make you as hungry. They don't make you think about food as much. And they also really work on your insulin and your blood sugar too. If I'm working with a client and they're struggling to lose weight, they're not even on a GLP-1 yet, right? Let's say they're struggling to lose weight. One thing that I always like to ask them, and let's say they're trying everything. One of the first things I'll ask is, how's your blood sugar? Have you had your fasting glucose, your A1C, your insulin levels checked? Because I do see that your blood sugar makes a huge difference in being able to lose weight, especially being insulin resistant. So the combination of slowing your stomach emptying, reducing your appetite, and improving your insulin response really, really has so many effects for being able to lose weight effectively. Common medications you will see out there, I just want to give you guys a background because, going to a doctor, they might give you options, or you might want to go in with options that you've researched that you feel better about. Also, a big thing is seeing what your insurance covers. So, the common medications you will see with the GLP-1s comes in two types. We have semaglutide and tirzepatide. Semaglutide for diabetes is Ozempic. For weight loss, we have Wegovy. And then tirzepatide for diabetes, Mounjaro. For weight loss, Zepbound. And both types can be effective. I will say in general, what I see the most, I do see clients on tirzepatide with less side effects. And one of the reasons I think that is that the GLP-1 in tirzepatide is also combined with another hormone, GIP. And both of them together, I've seen reduce side effects for people. But everybody can be a little different. And there's also a new type. I don't believe it's on the market yet. It's Retruteride, or from what I've been told, I'm not on TikTok, but some of my younger coworkers, friends are, and I guess the nickname is Retta. This is a triple acting one that is going to be coming out that's even stronger than what we have now. And so I just, if it's offered to you, just caution to really look into it and decide. But that's what I'm saying is more and more research and more types are going to continue to come out. And we don't know what's going to happen in the next few years. And that's another thing, too, is that most people who are going on them now, it's such a wave of research and people not being on them very long for research in the long term. So it is a little bit of an experiment. We're all kind of figuring this out together to see what the long-term side effects and success will be. But I guarantee you along the way, there is going to be so many new types and breakthroughs. And yes, but am I the expert on that right now? No. This is just what I am most aware of. And they were originally developed for type 2 diabetes because they do have an effect on improving your blood sugar. And then they found out later that the GLP-1s also help people to lose a lot of weight. And now they are also being used for obesity and cardiometabolic health. And so let's say you're interested, right? Where can you even go about getting them? The most reliable is going to be from your doctor. And if you want to get insurance to cover it, insurance most likely, this will be your best option. And I've seen other people go through weight loss clinics. Weight Loss or Weight Watchers are two that I'm aware of that you can get the peptides from. Med spas as well. I network with a couple med spas and take some of their clients, and those would be more of an out-of-pocket thing. So someone doesn't qualify, or maybe they want a little closer following. I do see that some of them do a really good job with that, of checking your labs and then having you come in weekly for injections. They coach you how to do injections. And then for some people who just want to microdose at like a really small dose, there's companies like LEMD out there that I see a lot of people using that will microdose tirzepatide at a very small dose. But that's one thing to note. Always figure out what dose that you're on, because sometimes, let's say you find a company, they say you're on your microdose. How do you even know it's a microdose? I know a microdose can range from like 0.5, maybe 0.1. I see most microdoses at 0.5. But you could be starting at 2.5 and someone could tell you you're on a microdose, but you're really not. So always check with that and do your research. And it is important to know your dose, and it is important to know how to inject yourself as well, because let's say you think you're on a certain dose, but you're injecting yourself incorrectly and then you overdose and get all these severe side effects. I would definitely talk to your doctor and have them show you how to do it. And most of the injections are once a week. There are oral medications now, and those definitely don't have as much research, and you have to take those once a day. So side effects could be worse, or the compliance could be harder to do. But I know it's an option for some people if their insurance doesn't cover the injections, or you really are just fearful of injections. But my philosophy is to start slow and go slow with the doses, right? I would say more is not always the answer. More is not always better. But starting at the lowest dose and really just seeing how you're feeling. Right? I believe the lowest dose for Zepbound that I have a lot of people on is 2.5. And I've had some people that can stay there and they still have somewhat of an appetite, able to eat, able to get in their protein goals, not having a ton of side effects. And if you're getting results, my thought is, why would you increase it? I know for some insurances or protocols or doctors will tell you, you've been on it this long, now you have to go up to 5, now you have to go up to 7.5, now 10. But my best advice is if you feel good on a lower dose, you're getting results, advocate for yourself and stay where you are, because then it's just going to be way easier to come off of them than if you have to keep going up and up. But the reason to increase would be if let's say you're not having any side effects and you still feel really hungry, you still have a lot of food noise, maybe your blood sugar isn't improving, then go ahead, see how it goes. But really just paying attention to your symptoms. And that concept of food noise that I have mentioned, that's one of the biggest reasons that people are seeing success and they really enjoy these medications. Being a dietitian for a long time, I've worked with so many people. And one of the biggest things for sticking with diets or that on and off diet cycle that can be so frustrating and almost feel never ending is just, we go on a strict diet and then we tell ourselves we mess up, or that food noise is still there, of like, oh, that cookie sounds good, or we're thinking about food all day. I see it with people. It can really, really be so destructive and really impact their daily lives for being able to make the most of their lives in other areas, of just being able to just, focus on other things, focus on work, focus on your kids, focus on what you enjoy versus always this worry or thoughts about food consuming your mind. But they do help to reduce that for most people. And because the GLP-1s, they work on your gut and your mind, they send signals to your brain, and they fill that reward center in your brain. So we won't think about food as much, especially if we aren't as hungry or that reward center is being filled. I see a lot with people with addiction too. People start to think less about alcohol or smoking, which is very positive. But often, too, that food noise can just be even louder for people. I work with so many people and often hear, I gave up smoking. I gave up alcohol. But this food thing, like, I just can't. Sugar, I think about sugar all the time. It's because you still have to eat. You can't just cold cut out eating in general. So it really can help with that. But if you're someone who has struggled with addictions, or also are trying to decrease your alcohol, you might find it naturally decreases with the GLP-1s as well. Things you just want to be careful, because if you're already feeling that reward system, right, is this taking away my desire for life? Do I not care about anything anymore? And, we all have days like that, right? But if that becomes like a big trend, and you are someone who was so enthusiastic for life and energized and excited for things, and now you're just really kind of blah, it might be something to definitely look into and discuss with your doctor or your psychologist or a healthcare professional, because, we don't want to help in one area and then have multiple negative effects in other areas of our lives. Yeah, that's one of the biggest reasons, and I know most people enjoy that their food noise can be less or even gone. And so who benefits most from these weight loss medications? I would say those with obesity, prediabetes and diabetes, insulin resistance or PCOS, which was just renamed to PMOS, polycystic, I'm going to get myself wrong here, but now it's more considered a metabolic condition, which makes a lot of sense and probably should have been that for a long time. Cardiovascular risk, chronic inflammation, and individuals struggling with appetite regulation. And this is just an important point here, that these medications aren't designed for someone trying to lose their last 5 to 10 pounds. They're intended to treat someone who has a lot of weight to lose or a chronic metabolic disease. So if you're, just frustrated with that last 5 to 10 pounds, I would encourage you to not consider going on the GLP-1s. But if you really have a lot of weight to lose, you don't know where to start, you've had so many times of regaining the weight that you lost, maybe you end up heavier than you were before, and you're just feeling like everything you're doing isn't working, then they might be something to consider for you. People who may want to avoid these medications, I would say those with past eating disorder history or current eating disorders, anything like anorexia, bulimia, when we're already struggling with eating enough in our body image, this is only going to make it worse. And I think it's a thing to just be mindful of too, that on social media and where we see people losing all this weight and more of these instant gratification with weight loss with these medications out there now, that eating disorders can be on the rise as well now with people who maybe haven't had one before. And now they're on the medications and really get this addiction to how I look. I need to lose weight. Now I'm fearful to come off. And so, if you notice that in friends or family on them, definitely could be worth having a conversation if you're concerned of that. You also want to avoid them if you've had a history of thyroid cancer, pancreatitis in the past, because they do have an effect on insulin in your pancreas, some gallbladder issues, history of gut issues like gastroparesis, because these medications slow down your GI system, gastroparesis would only make it so much worse because gastroparesis means delayed gastric emptying. And so doing that on top of having delayed gastric emptying, you're likely going to feel pretty awful. Really hard to eat anything at all, nausea, vomiting, just not desirable. So if you have a history of gut issues in general, talk to your doctor, talk to your dietitian, and decide if this is going to help you or not. Pregnancy, definitely avoid it if you are pregnant. And children, I do know that some clinics or specialists are giving them to adolescents. Do I work with adolescents on them? No. There might be cases for it, but I would definitely, proceed with caution with that and wouldn't recommend it for most unless it's kind of like life or death situation, because at that point, as an adolescent, you're growing so much still, and anything that impacts like your nutrient intake or vitamins and minerals might not be the best idea at those times. And so let's say you do want a GLP-1, right? How much weight loss could you expect to lose? I will say everybody's different. Most research shows that many individuals lose 10 to 20% of their body weight, depending on your medication and adherence. And I think, a lot of that can depend as well on your lifestyle choices. That just deciding to go on the medications and not eating well or not exercising, you might not get the best results or same results as your friend who is working on strength training and walking and eating well. So when you, like I mentioned from the beginning, using them as a tool can really be helpful. But there are some people who are just better, their bodies respond better than others. And so usually people in the first 6 months or so who lose the most, they generally say will be the most successful with weight loss on them. But if it's not working for you, you could consider maybe trying a different type or switching up your dose or switching up your lifestyle as well. But I have a client who I've been working with for a while now. He had gotten bariatric surgery in the past, and then just through life, as many of you know, with the bariatric surgery, that weight gain can still happen. And he ended up gaining a lot of the weight back after his surgery. Now, just with the ongoing struggle of that food noise and snacking, decided to go on a GLP-1. And he's been on them for, I want to say 9 months now. Started to lose some weight before that, but being on the GLP-1, he is now lower than his lowest weight post-bariatric surgery. And so, that's how effective I've seen them being for certain people. And then I have, an example, another client I'm working with who just in menopause gained some weight, really trying everything, just could not see the scale ever go below 200 pounds. And she's like, I got to do something different. So made the personal decision to start on Zepbound. She's been on the lowest dose there is this entire time, and she's eating well, meeting her protein, exercising, and she continues to lose gradual weight at a very healthy rate, feeling good, still able to eat. We did the InBody scale, which measures her muscle, and she's actually gained muscle being on the GLP-1. So that's an example of somebody using them as a real tool. Her goal is to not be on them forever, just wants to take advantage of seeing where she can get to, how good she can feel, and then eventually come off, which likely won't be as hard for her being on a lower dose and having maintained and build some muscle mass. I've also seen people with blood sugar improvements, reducing their A1Cs, decreasing cardiovascular risks, decrease inflammation, and just feeling better about themselves, right? If you feel more confident and better about yourself and your body, you're going to enjoy your life better too. And some new research as well, more and more is coming out with the GLP-1s and their effect on autoimmunity in the body as well, which is really interesting because I know that can be pretty debilitating for people and can really just be hard to find answers and chronic inflammation of things that don't work. So there has been some research and improvements in autoimmune symptoms for people as well. And with improved weight loss, less inflammation, right? You may see improved mobility in your body, easier to move, less joint pain, more energy, confidence, and maybe just like more desire to participate in activities that you hadn't in the past. So if it's me, right, talking to someone going on the GLP-1 medications, I think it's just important to consider where you're at overall and what have you tried in the past, right? Like, let's say you've never even tried to clean up your diet or exercise, or you have gut issues or hormone issues and you've never investigated any of those. I would say let's not start with the GLP-1s. Like, you have a lot of options that we could go through, like getting you to eat cleaner and get your protein goals in and get more fiber and well-rounded and add in some strength training, walking, get you in an exercise routine. And maybe if you have a lot of bloating or constipation or heartburn, I'd want to dive deeper into your gut health because your gut is a lot where GLP-1 hormone is made. And maybe we could do an evaluation of the Dutch test for more hormones and looking at your thyroid panel or your sex hormones. And let's say we've done all that, right? And you're still not seeing weight loss results. I would say then maybe the GLP-1s are great for you to do at that point. Do I think they should be your first option? No. I think that you could try a lot of things before trying a weight loss medication. So that's my point there. Here are some things that people, you might just hear the good things. You might also hear a lot of bad things, right? But here are some common side effects. I think it's always good to just note what may happen. I will say the two most common side effects I see with people are nausea and constipation. Nausea being a big reason why a lot of people don't eat as much. And constipation for sure. Everything is slowed down. So your GI system, people who've never been constipated in their life may experience constipation. Vomiting, I will say less common, but can still happen if you eat too much too fast. Try to eat what you were eating before because your eyes tell you that you should be eating that much. That can be a big thing for people too, is that even though you're not as hungry, you don't have that food noise, but what you're so used to, like looking at your plate of like, well, I always fill my plate this much, will really have to change and your eyes kind of have to start to match your stomach and your mind, like bringing everything together. Bloating can be common. Heartburn, if everything's slower, right, it can kind of push back up. Fatigue, for sure, if you aren't eating as much and getting in all your nutrients. I have a lot of people who feel very tired. Most of the side effects I do see happen more on your dose day or the day after. So let's say you take your injection on a Saturday, right? You might feel most of those things like Saturday, Sunday, maybe Monday, and then by the end of the week, it could start to wear off and you might feel more hungry and kind of not back fully to your full appetite, but you might notice they wear off. Less common side effects, more long-term things, hair loss, right? If we are malnourished or not getting in all our nutrients or protein, hair loss is definitely a sign of that, especially if you've never seen it before. Malnutrition, not getting in your nutrients, vitamin and minerals low, feeling exhausted. Cold hands and feet. I have cold hands and feet anyways, but if you never have or it becomes more noticeable, that's a side effect. More severe things like gastroparesis, like the delayed stomach emptying I was telling you about, that becomes more severe, or even in these most severe cases, there have been cases of stomach paralysis. So any alarms of this, go to your doctor. And like I tell people too, if it's really not for you, if you start it, you can stop it. Stop it if anything severe is happening. It might just not be for you, or maybe we have to look at your dose or what you're taking. So kind of giving you some strategies, right? Or we'll look at muscle loss first. Muscle loss is a big side effect of these medications because when you lose weight, it's really hard to not lose muscle, right? Let's say you're like, oh, I lost 30 pounds, right? But we also have to look at your overall body composition. That's so great you lost 30 pounds, right? But how much of that was fat? How much of it was muscle? And with going on a medication and eating a low-calorie diet and not getting enough protein or exercise, like, is a recipe to lose a lot of muscle, and your muscle helps to support your metabolism. So a lot of times if people are on a weight loss medication and they lose a lot of weight, but you also lose a lot of muscle, let's say you come off of it and with less muscle than you had before, your metabolism is slower and it can make it easier to gain weight with the amount of food you used to eat. So it's like, I lost all this weight and now I was eating what I was before, but I'm gaining more than I did before. And that's why people go through that cycle of I lost it and I gained it all back and more. So a big thing is to, like I said, it can be really, really hard to not lose muscle, but the best things we can do is get you in an exercise strength training routine at least 2 to 4 times a week with strength training and some walking and whatever your body is capable of in there. But I'll say if you don't know where to start or really want optimal results, I would suggest hiring a personal trainer. You have an appointment with someone, you show up, they're experts, they can show you what to do, they can show you what's safe, and maybe give you some exercises to do on your own as well. Or maybe you like group classes, or maybe you do at home. There's so many apps you could do that it doesn't have to be long. Even 20 to 30 minutes twice a week if you are doing nothing can really, really help. And then we also have to make sure you're getting in your protein goals, which we will go through. And that's what I help a lot of people with. Calorie-wise, I find it hard for people for most to meet more than 12 to 1,500 calories. I've seen a lot of people, as low as 800 calories today that they're able to eat on the GLP-1s. And think about it, right? You decide to come off. There's no way that you're surviving on 800 calories, and it kind of puts you in starvation mode. So obviously you're going to eat more. And then if we don't have our muscle, it can definitely cause some weight gain. So I tell people, let's at least get you to 1,000 to 1,200 calories. If you can do more and see some weight loss and not feel too full or sick, go for it. That's great. But what we really want to focus on is getting in your protein goals. And so for protein goals, here's my general spiel with that. For women, I would say generally 100 grams of protein a day is a good place to start for being on the GLP-1s. For men, I would say 130 grams daily. But if it was me, right, and I decided to take this, make the most of it. Start tracking your foods and start writing everything down and add up how much protein you're getting in a day. If you're starting at 50 to 60, going up to 100 grams of protein might be really hard and make you feel like crap. So we can gradually increase it. But let's say you're at 100 and you could still do more and you're still kind of hungry, you're exercising a lot. Great, we can go up, 110, 120. But that's where I would start. And then we can adjust based on how you feel and where your results go. And so nutrition strategies for success of how I coach people first, right, is let's look at protein first. Because you're only going to be eating a limited amount of calories. There's only so much space in your stomach. We don't feel hungry. You might not think to eat. You likely won't think to eat. So if that is you, set some timers in your phone. I would encourage you to eat 3 small meals and 1 to 2 snacks a day. To meet that 100 grams of protein, I tell my clients, just as a staple in your diet, put it in there, at least 1 protein shake a day. It's really hard to meet your goals without it. And liquids often might be easier to digest. And so that could be one of the ready-to-drink shakes, or maybe you just mix up a powder with at least 20 to 30 grams of protein with water or something like if you tolerate milk or unsweetened almond milk or something. I wouldn't blend too much in it because then it's going to be thicker and make it sit heavier in your stomach. But at least 1 protein shake a day. And then getting in another 3 to 4 small meals / snacks a day. Good protein sources to get in there. I got plenty of episodes on protein, but just to kind of review, right? Palm size animal-based proteins, about 4 ounces. If that's too much for you, 3 ounces, maybe 2 ounces as a snack. But about 4 ounces, 20, 30 grams of protein right there. Chicken, turkey. I would do more the lean meat. Sometimes the heavier meats with more fat in them could sit heavier in your stomach or make you more full. So more like 93% lean meat or 99% if you're really bothered with it. And then you take your time and chew well, put your fork down. Digestion starts in your mouth. So the more you chew your food, the easier it is to break down and settles better in your stomach. And so eggs are also a great source of protein. 1 egg is 6 grams of protein. Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, 1 cup of Greek yogurt, 20 grams, 1 cup of cottage cheese, about 30 grams of protein. And so if you're vegetarian or vegan, yes, you can still do this, but it is kind of harder because it's so much easier to get in your protein with like 3 or 4 ounces of a lean protein. You have to eat like over a cup of beans or lentils to get like close to that same protein. And that can be really filling as well. And so it's like money, right? We just want to prioritize what's going to give us the most bang for our buck. So thinking about your day, what kind of protein source are you going to get in for all your meals and snacks? And then we want to think next about fiber sources, because fiber is going to keep you regular. It's good for your gut, digestion, and like I said, constipation can be a really big thing. If it's hard for you to get in fiber, you could consider a fiber powder, which I was just talking about to some of the trainers at Plymouth Fitness the other day. Psyllium husk powder or sun fiber are really good tolerated ones. You could add them to your protein shake or another liquid. I would encourage you to drink them somewhat fast because they get thick and kind of gross. But if you're having trouble getting your fiber, start with like a half serving of that a day, and then you could go up to a full serving. But good sources, vegetables are also really good on your blood sugar. If you're having trouble digesting them or food sits heavy in your stomach, more cooked vegetables could be a good option. Other good sources of fiber that would be helpful in the GLP-1s, some fruits like berries or apple slices, pears, maybe like 1 fruit a day could be a good goal, just so you're getting the other nutrients too. A small portion of avocados, some chia or flax seeds you could add to things. And if you can tolerate like beans or lentils, those are good sources as well. The healthy fats, like I mentioned, sometimes too much heavy fats can sit heavy. I said heavy twice, but sit in your stomach. But healthy fats are still helpful to get in your diet. They help you absorb nutrients. So if you cook with a little olive oil or avocado oil, or add a little olive oil-based dressing to your salads, or maybe a little grass-fed butter on your vegetables or something like that, that could be helpful. If you tolerate nuts and seeds or nut butters, they're good healthy fats, have some protein. You could add those in as well. Things you want to avoid that really aren't nutrient dense that I would try to, nobody's perfect, right? And if somebody was like, oh my gosh, I'm on the GLP-1s and I had a dessert, I messed it up. No, you're not going to mess it up. Nobody's perfect. But I would say things to avoid and limit, because you really need to get in your nutrients when you aren't that hungry, are simple carbs like white bread, pasta, added sugars, sweets, candies, ice creams, alcohol. Too much caffeine in general can be upsetting for the stomach, so I wouldn't do too much of that. Processed foods, reading the label, a ton of added ingredients, really anything that's not going to give you too much nutrition. And so I would, shop the perimeter of the grocery store, stock up on all the healthy stuff, fill your cart with that. And then if you go out to eat, once a week or less, try to choose like a lean protein source, maybe a vegetable, and obviously eat as you would normally in the day, because especially on the GLP-1s, like you can't make it up, right? So sample day. Maybe you get up for breakfast and have 2 eggs, and then if you're hungry, you have a little fruit with it. And then for a snack, or you do your workout, post-workout, come have a protein shake. For lunch, maybe you do 3 or 4 ounces of chicken with some cooked broccoli. Afternoon snack, maybe a Greek yogurt or a cheese stick. If you need a little fiber, you can put chia seeds or flax seeds in the yogurt. And then for dinner, maybe you do about 4 ounces of salmon, maybe a really small portion of sweet potato, and maybe some cooked green beans. And then if you, by that point, you'll probably be full. You definitely will have over 100 grams of protein a day. But if you need a little sweet treat at night, maybe a piece of dark chocolate, or I've been really into sugar-free popsicles lately, and that can help with your hydration too. So something like Good Pop. I love those popsicles. They even have electrolytes in them, because that's something else to really consider. As I mentioned, electrolytes is water. A lot of times with the GLP-1s, we can forget to eat, but a lot of people often don't feel as thirsty, and hydration is huge. So you might need to set some timers to remember to drink water. I would say minimum 64 ounces or half your body weight in fluid ounces of water. Electrolytes once a day could be really helpful, putting a little sea salt and lemon juice in your water can count. Or maybe you get something like Ultima's a good brand. I like LMNT. There's a lot of good electrolytes out there. Trace minerals, and add those to your water. They help you to absorb your water better. Staying hydrated also can help with keeping your bowel movements regular and digestion. And it helps with weight loss too. It really helps with everything. So just as important as what you eat is what you drink. Try not to fill too much on sugar-sweetened beverages. Like I mentioned, too much caffeine, alcohol. It's just like empty calories that aren't going to help you. And yeah, I would say try to find some things you like too. And a good pattern, try to eat every 3 to 5 hours, small portions. And really also pay attention to how you feel and how your digestion is too, right? Just the foods I mentioned, not everybody may like or tolerate all those things, and that's okay. Like let's say, you went to eat Greek yogurt and you got super bloated and you didn't feel good. Don't eat it. You can find an alternative, or maybe dairy doesn't work for you. There's some good coconut-based Greek yogurts or almond milk-based Greek yogurts. So above all, try all these things out, but also see how you feel. And I would suggest, if you're confused by any of that, come see me. Come see a dietitian, and we can go through your individual diet and come up with options that will best work for you and fit into your lifestyle. And here are some labs as well that I would consider asking for. If you've already started the GLP-1 medications and you haven't done any lab work, you can still ask. Send your doctor a message, see if they can put some things in Quest, or if you have an upcoming appointment. Or if you haven't started them, now would be a good opportunity before you do to get a baseline just to see where you're at as well. But common things I would look into blood sugar-wise, your A1C, your fasting insulin. Looking into those things might also be a factor of if insurance will cover your medications. Some, not all, like weight loss, with a high enough BMI could be enough to cover them with your insurance, but sometimes people need to have a diagnosis of diabetes, prediabetes, and those labs can tell you that. Also, because of the benefits of the cardiac benefits, looking at your lipid panel could be really helpful. Doctors always usually do a complete metabolic panel, a CMP, and a complete blood count, CBC, which are always good to check. As a dietitian, I like to look into a lot of vitamins as well, just to make sure, are we nourished? Would it be helpful to take a supplement? Things like vitamin D, a lot of us can be low in. Vitamin B12, especially with age, a lot of us can be low in, or if you don't get enough meat in your diet. Iron, I am chronically low in iron. I always get mine checked. And yeah, if some people never have a problem with it, and some do. I definitely would look into your thyroid markers if you're considering going on them, because let's say you're having difficulty losing weight. What if it's your thyroid? And then what if we fix that? You might not need it. But you'd also want to know if there's, like I mentioned, history of thyroid cancer and whatnot. You wouldn't want to take them. CRP can be an inflammatory marker. And you could also look into cortisol, sex hormones, and just a general picture of your labs. And then, about every 3 months, I personally think would be a good check-in point to see where are we at. Are we getting any progress? And it also can be motivating too, because sometimes the scale doesn't tell the whole picture, right? We can put so much of our success on what the number on the scale says, but health is much more than that too. And so I think some biomarkers are also good to check along the way. If you have access to doing an InBody or something like that, a scale that can look at your muscle, your percent body fat, your visceral fat, your water weight, it can be much more encouraging than just seeing the number on the scale, right? Let's say I've seen this happen multiple times. It happened last week. I had a guy come in who had been doing a lot of strength training, feeling stronger and faster, but not seeing the scale improve. And then we got on the scale and he had gained 5 pounds of muscle and lost 3% body fat in a month, which is amazing. But before that, he was so discouraged. And afterward, he left in a completely different mindset. So I think that can be really encouraging too. And also just paying attention to how your clothes fit, how's your mood, your energy, your sleep. That's really what we're looking for, right? Is a feeling and overall health. So if you're ever frustrated with the scale, or maybe you're questioning oh my God, I'm losing this weight, but I feel like I'm losing a lot of muscle. I would suggest doing something like an InBody scale measure. You can do it at the gym I work at Plymouth Fitness. Other gyms I know have it. They also have some, scales like that you can get at home from Amazon that I've tried in the past before, and they're not as in-depth, but they can also give you a good baseline, and it really is just all relative. So they could be helpful too. If you're on GLP-1 medication, here's some potential supplements I would look into. I definitely would look into a protein powder or a protein shake, like the ready-to-drink ones I mentioned. Have that on hand. Do it once a day, if needed, twice a day. Electrolytes I would do once a day. A good standard multivitamin I would take once a day as well as a security blanket. You just don't know if you're getting in all your nutrients, and it's not going to harm you. You're just going to pee out what you don't need. I think other things that might be helpful if you're experiencing constipation, a magnesium, like a magnesium citrate or oxide at night. I find taking more like laxative supplements at night is helpful for people because at night, like you go into rest and digest mode and can often help with regular bowel movements in the morning. If you're not getting in enough seafood in your diet or experiencing some inflammation, fish oil is always good. If you're low in vitamin D or not getting enough sunlight, that's always helpful. B12 too. And then it can really be an individual basis. I always like to go through my clients' labs with them. And from my perspective as more like holistic nutritionist, I'm always looking for optimal, not just normal, right? Just for an example, iron's on my mind because mine always comes back low. The range for your iron stores ferritin, I believe, is like a 9 to like 251. It's considered normal. Like, how is that we can go from that big a range and someone who is a 9, someone is at 250 is all normal? And example, for someone not to be considered iron deficient, you want your ferritin above 30, like at least 40, 50 is what I would suggest to be more normal than like a 9. So yeah, that's just how much some labs can range. Looking at long-term success, and you're wondering, this is a big question a lot of people wonder, can you come off of them? My honest answer is, from what I've seen so far, right, these are still new, I have seen some people successfully come off, and then I see other people that struggle a little bit more. I will say that a statistic, 30% of people who come off of them end up going back on within 6 months to a year because the weight gain starts to happen again, or maybe their habits or their food thoughts start to come back. And so I do see some people cycle on and off of them. I've had some people who really just need a little boost with their inflammation and weight loss support and have done all the things to support themselves along the way and then come off and not need them again. And then there's that thought, right? Like you're taking a blood pressure medication or a cholesterol medication or metformin, a diabetes medication, right? Those are, people stay on those. And so it can be also looked at as like that, comparing it to it's more of a long-term medication and just seeing how you feel with that and where your labs are going. Let's say you go on it and it's more a long-term thing, but you come off of your blood pressure medication or your cholesterol medication, right? You always have to weigh the pros and cons. And each doctor you work with is going to have different philosophies, but I think it's just important to, sit with yourself and see what feels good for you too. So my honest answer is there isn't a straightforward answer with that, but if you do want to come off of them, here's what I would do, which I mentioned before, and I'll say again. Maintain your muscle mass, get in your protein goals, do your exercise, build habits, get in the habit of meal prepping, cut out sugary foods or triggers in the house, get your blood sugar stable, and also really work on your mindset too, because they do work on your mind, right? But if you come off of them and you have a history of emotional eating or poor relationship with your body or food, and we didn't work through that, just because you take a medication does not mean it's gone. Like it could just mask all those underlying feelings and emotions. So you want to get support and do some journaling, do some meditation, see a psychologist or do some, which I'll have an episode, inner child shadow work, internal family systems, very, very helpful around any relationship or emotional eating. And I would suggest not only working on the food part, right, but getting the support with that past stuff with emotions around food can be really helpful. And you definitely want to get yourself into an exercise routine. And so here's a little encouragement too. You can, like I mentioned before, GLP-1s are naturally, our body makes them. And like I said, you're never going to make them as high as the medication. They're like super dose, but you do produce these on your own. And a lot of times, and they're made in the gut, right? And a lot of times so many people have so many gut issues. All of us do. The world we're in, the food we're around, the chemicals, toxins, environmental. So supporting your health and your gut health can help so much. Like just looking at your diet now, if you're not on them, like, am I getting protein at all my meals and snacks? Could I increase my fiber? How is my gut health? Do I get bloated, constipated, diarrhea? Do I have a ton of food sensitivities? If you are, like, working on your gut health underlying could help so much. Getting into a strength training routine, more muscle, improving your metabolism. Sleep is huge. We didn't talk about that today, but sleep regulates all your hormones at night. And if we're rested in the day, you have less cravings. And there is a lot you could do between diet, supplements, lifestyle to balance your blood sugar as well. So kind of working on all of those things, you can naturally boost your own GLP-1s. So I hope today was helpful. I know there's a lot of information out there. I really just wanted to summarize what I've seen so far, people that I'm working with, how I can support, and just be a resource for you guys to go within and make your own decisions. Because I'll say it again, they're a tool. For some people, they're life-changing, and for others, they might not be the right fit. The medication can lower the noise, but it cannot build the habits for you. And real transformation comes from your actions, right? You taking charge, not thinking this medication is going to be your quick fix pill to fix your life. It's you have to be a part of this. You have to take the initiative to take the steps to make time for yourself. And I would just definitely encourage you to ask the questions and to build a team around you to support you. So yeah, if you guys do have questions on GLP-1s or anything in general, shoot me a message and I'd be happy to talk. And thank you so much for listening today. Thank you so much for listening to the Lean Life podcast. Your support truly means everything. If you loved this episode, the best way to support the show is to leave a review, subscribe, or share it with someone you care about. If you want to go deeper, I work with clients one-to-one through intuitive functional nutrition, both locally on the South Shore of Boston and online. You can always reach out, ask questions, or connect with me. I'd love to support you. Sending you love, balance, and a reminder to lean into all that you are. I'll see you in the next episode.